So, the idea was simple. A trial run. That's what I called it. Living together before signing a marriage certificate was just a data-gathering exercise. You test the software before you deploy it, right? Chloe, being Chloe, called it building a nest. See? Engineer versus artist. That was us in a nutshell. The apartment itself was a steal. Too good to be true, probably, but my logic dismissed that as statistical noise. An old building downtown, high ceilings, hardwood floors that groaned like an old man getting out of bed. It had character. That's the word people use when they mean it's old and a little beat up. The first few days were a blur of boxes, takeout, and the minor collisions of two lives merging into one space. My ordered world of neatly coiled cables and alphabetized books crashed into her beautiful chaos of paint tubes, half-read poetry collections, and mugs left in random places. I'd find her paintbrushes in the silverware drawer. She'd find my laptop charger in the fruit bowl. Minor stuff, the kind of thing you work through. The first real glitch in the system happened on day 3. My keys. I'm methodical about my keys. They go from my pocket straight into the ceramic bowl by the door. Always. It's an unbreakable routine. But that afternoon, they weren't there. "Chloe, have you seen my keys?" I called out, my voice echoing in the half-empty living room. "Didn't you put them in the bowl?" she answered from the bedroom, the sound muffled. "Yeah, I did. They're not here." I checked my pockets, checked the counter again. I looked under the mail, lifted the bowl, peered behind it. Nothing. A flicker of irritation went through me. It was inefficient, time wasted. "You probably just put them down somewhere else while you were carrying boxes," she said, walking into the room. "You're tired." I wanted to argue, to state that my system doesn't fail. But I was tired. So I just nodded and started a wider search. 15 minutes later, I gave up and started unpacking the bedroom boxes. And there they were, lying dead center on my pillow. Perfectly placed, the metal teeth of the keys glinting in the light from the window. I stared at them. I hadn't been in the bedroom since this morning. I never, ever put my keys on the bed. Bullshit. You were tired. You did it, and you forgot. My own brain supplied the rational explanation. It was the only one that made sense. I picked them up, the metal cool against my palm, and forced the weirdness down. Case closed. The real fight, the first one, came that weekend. It was over one of her paintings. A big canvas, maybe 4 feet by 4. Mostly abstract swirls of deep blues and greens. She wanted to hang it on the main wall in the living room, the first thing you walk in. I stood back, hands on my hips, trying to see it. "I don't know, Chloe. It's a little dark, don't you think, for the main wall?" Her face fell. The light just went out of her eyes. "It's not dark. It's hopeful." "It's a lot of navy blue," I said, trying to be objective, "and it's not very spatially efficient. It kind of swallows the light from that window." "Spatially efficient?" She repeated the words like they were a foreign language. "Liam, it's art. It's not a piece of code. It's supposed to make you feel something." "It makes me feel like I'm in a cave," I said. It came out harsher than I meant it to. That was it. The conversation shut down. She didn't yell, she just got quiet. This wall of silence that was 100 times worse than shouting. We ate dinner without talking, the sound of our forks scraping on the plates unnaturally loud. We went to bed like two strangers, a canyon of cold sheets between us. I woke up first the next morning. It was early. The sun just starting to filter through the big windows, painting long rectangles of light on the floor. I padded out to the kitchen to make coffee, my mind already on debugging a piece of code for work. As I waited for the coffee to brew, I glanced into the living room. And I froze. My coffee cup halfway to my mouth. The painting. It was still there, leaning against the wall where we'd left it, but it had changed. I'm not talking about a subtle shift. The deep blues I'd call dark were now black, a thick, inky black that seemed to drink the morning light. The gentle green swirls were gone, replaced by jagged streaks of a sickly gray color. And in the center, where there had been a patch of brighter blue, there was now a shape, a distorted, elongated oval with a gaping black hole in the middle. It looked like a face. It looked like a face caught in a silent scream. A cold prickle went up my spine. My hands started to shake, just a little. No, it's the light. The morning light is different. I walked closer, my bare feet silent on the wood floor. It wasn't the light. The colors were fundamentally different. The texture of the paint looked angrier, more violent. This wasn't the painting Chloe had shown me last night. It couldn't be. My engineer's brain kicked in, desperate for a foothold. Collect data, verify the anomaly. I pulled out my phone, my fingers fumbling with the camera icon. The screen felt slick with sweat. I took a picture. The click of the shutter sounded like a gunshot in the quiet room. "Chloe," I called, my voice tight. "Chloe, can you come out here a second?" I heard her stir in the bedroom. A minute later, she appeared in the doorway, wrapped in her robe, her hair a mess. She looked at me, then followed my gaze to the painting. And then she said the words that broke my reality. "What is it?" she asked, her voice sleepy. "Are you still mad about the painting? It's fine. We can put it in the studio." I just stared at her. Then I looked back at the painting. The black was gone. The screaming face was gone. The angry gray streaks were gone. It was just as it had been yesterday. Deep, hopeful blues and gentle greens. Entirely normal. The blood rushed to my head, a dizzying, hot wave. "No," I whispered. My voice was trembling now. I couldn't stop it. "No, look, just look at it." "I am looking at it, Liam. It's the painting. What's wrong with you?" "It changed," I said, the words feeling insane on my own tongue. "It was black. There was a face." She gave me a look, the kind of look you give someone who's maybe losing their mind, a mixture of pity and concern. That look pushed me over the edge. "No, I'm not crazy," I almost shouted, shoving my phone into her hands. "Look, I took a picture. I just took it." She took the phone, her brow furrowed. Her eyes widened. I watched her look from the glowing screen in her hand up to the canvas against the wall and then back to the screen. On the phone, clear as day, was the image of the corrupted painting. The inky blackness, the jagged gray lines, the silent, screaming face. On the wall in front of us was Chloe's original piece. Hopeful, blue, normal. The blood rushed to my head, a dizzying, hot wave. "No," I whispered. My voice was trembling now. I couldn't stop it. "No, look, just look at it." "I am looking at it, Liam. It's the painting. What's wrong with you?" "It changed," I said, the words feeling insane on my own tongue. "It was black. There was a face." She gave me a look, the kind of look you give someone who's maybe losing their mind, a mixture of pity and concern. That look pushed me over the edge. "No, I'm not crazy," I almost shouted, shoving my phone into her hands. "Look, I took a picture. I just took it." She took the phone, her brow furrowed, her eyes widened. I watched her look from the glowing screen in her hand up to the canvas against the wall and then back to the screen. On the phone, clear as day, was the image of the corrupted painting. The inky blackness, the jagged gray lines, the silent, screaming face. On the wall in front of us was Chloe's original piece. Hopeful, blue, normal.
The blood rushed to my head, a dizzying hot wave. "No," I whispered. My voice was trembling now. I couldn't stop it. "No, look, just look at it." "I am looking at it, Liam. It's the painting. What's wrong with you?" "It changed," I said, the words feeling insane on my own tongue. "It was black. There was a face." She gave me a look. The kind of look you give someone who's maybe losing their mind. A mixture of pity and concern. That look pushed me over the edge. "No, I'm not crazy," I almost shouted, shoving my phone into her hands. "Look, I took a picture. I just took it." She took the phone, her brow furrowed, her eyes widened. I watched her look from the glowing screen in her hand up to the canvas against the wall and then back to the screen. On the phone, clear as day, was the image of the corrupted painting. The inky blackness, the jagged gray lines, the silent, screaming face. On the wall in front of us was Chloe's original piece, hopeful, blue, normal. We stood there for what felt like an hour, passing the phone back and forth in total silence. The proof of the impossible was right there, a digital ghost contradicting the physical world. My logical brain was screaming, trying to find an explanation. A glitch in the phone's sensor? A trick of the light so perfect it could fool a camera? But I knew. Deep down in my gut, I knew none of those were true. This wasn't a ghost that moved keys. This wasn't a faulty memory from being tired. This was different. The apartment, it had listened to our fight, and it had answered. That night, neither of us slept much. We ended up on the couch, not talking, just sitting in the dark with a single lamp on, as if the light could keep whatever was in this place at bay. The argument about the painting was forgotten, replaced by a shared, unspoken fear that formed a strange kind of truce. We were a team again, but our opponent was the very floorboards under our feet and the plaster in the walls. Around 3 a.m., Chloe got up. I watched her as she walked over to the wall where the painting had been leaning. We had moved it into the spare room, hiding it away like some dirty secret. She ran her hand along the blank space, her fingers tracing invisible lines. "What is it?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. She didn't answer right away. She stopped, pressing her fingers against one spot. "It feels bumpy here." Curiosity got the better of my fear. I got up and joined her. She was right. Under the cheap floral wallpaper, there was a slight ridge. It was almost unnoticeable. Chloe used her fingernail, picking at the edge of the paper seam. It was old, and a small corner peeled back easily, a dry, crackling sound filling the room. She pulled a little more. A flap of wallpaper, about the size of my hand, came away from the wall. Beneath it wasn't smooth plaster. It was raw, gray cement, and carved into the cement were lines, scratches.
A series of straight, vertical gashes, like a prisoner marking time. They were in groups of 5, 4 down, 1 across. We counted them together, our voices a low murmur in the dark apartment. There were 27 marks. We didn't talk about the 27 marks scratched into the cement. We covered them back up with the wallpaper, pressing the flowery paper down over them like you'd close a coffin lid. It was easier to pretend they weren't there. We spent the next couple of days in a kind of ceasefire, not with each other, but with the apartment. We moved around like we were in a library, speaking in low voices. We didn't disagree on anything. What to eat for dinner? Anything you want. What movie to watch? I don't care, you pick. We were trying not to bleed, trying not to give the shark in the water anything to smell. It was a stupid plan. I know that now. You can't starve a thing that feeds on the very air you breathe. The truce broke on a Tuesday afternoon. It was a normal conversation, the kind you have a million times. I was sitting at the kitchen island with my laptop, trying to untangle a nut of bad code, and Chloe was sketching in her notebook. "Hey," she said, not looking up from her pad. "Thinking about the weekend. Maybe we could finally take that drive up the coast. See Dave's new gallery?" Dave, her friend from art school. A good guy, I guess. Harmless. I'd met him a few times. But the moment his name left her lips, something hot and ugly coiled in my gut. My jaw tightened. I could feel the muscle jumping under my skin. The words were out of my mouth before I could even think about them. "Sure he wants us to see the gallery? Or does he just want to see you?" The scratching of her pencil stopped. The silence that followed was heavy, solid. I stared at my screen, the lines of code blurring. Where the hell did that come from? I wasn't a jealous guy. I trusted Chloe. But the feeling, it was so real. A bitter, possessive anger that tasted like old pennies in my mouth. I looked up. She was just watching me, her expression unreadable. "Liam, what was that?" she asked, her voice quiet. I don't know," I stammered, shaking my head to clear it. The anger was already fading, leaving me feeling hollowed out and confused. "I'm sorry. I'm just stressed with work. That wasn't me." But it was. It had come out of my mouth, out of my body. I felt like a ventriloquist's dummy, and someone else was working the controls. That night, the apartment started helping again. I'd made a comment the day before about her always leaving the bathroom light on. A minor annoyance. A piece of data to be filed under cohabitation adjustments. I had forgotten all about it. But when she came out of the bathroom that night, the light she'd left on flickered, once, twice, and then popped out of existence with a soft foot. The filament inside the bulb glowed orange for a second, then died. We both froze in the hallway. "The bulb just blew," I said, trying to make my voice sound normal, logical. "Bulbs blow all the time." "Yeah," Chloe whispered, "it just blew." The next day was the music. She was playing some soft, instrumental stuff on her little Bluetooth speaker while she painted. I was trying to read a technical manual on the couch, and the sound, faint as it was grating on me. I didn't say anything. I just got up and closed the living room door. A few minutes later, the music sputtered. The clean notes distorted into a crackle of static, like an old radio caught between stations, and then it went completely silent. I opened the door. Chloe was standing by the speaker, her hand hovering over it. She looked at me, her eyes wide. "Did you see that?" she asked. "See what? It probably just lost connection." "No," she said, shaking her head slowly. "It didn't. Liam, it doesn't want me to listen to music. It's teaching me." That was the word. Teaching, punishing, correcting. The cold dread from the night with the painting came washing back over me. I walked over to her, wanting to pull her into a hug, to be the logical one, the rock. I wanted to say it was all just a series of bizarre coincidences. I put my hands on her arms. She screamed. It wasn't a loud scream, more of a sharp, terrified gasp as she ripped herself away from my touch. She scrambled backward, stumbling over a stack of books, her eyes blown wide with a kind of panic I'd never seen before. It wasn't the look of someone who was scared of a ghost. It was the look of someone cornered by a predator. "Don't," she choked out, holding her hands up in front of her. "Please, Mark, don't do that again. Please." Mark. The name hit me like a physical blow. A wave of dizziness made the room swim. For a second, I couldn't process it. My name is Liam. And then the other feeling came, the same one from the day before. That hot, possessive rage flooded my system, but this time it was 10 times stronger. It wasn't my anger. It felt old, worn in, familiar to whatever part of me wasn't me. And a thought, clear as a bell, flashed through my mind. She dares say another man's name to my face. My hands curled into fists at my sides. I felt my own knuckles grind together. It took every ounce of my willpower not to take a step toward her. I stared at my own white-knuckled fist like it was a venomous snake. I had to physically grab my right wrist with my left hand to stop it from moving. The urge to what? To hit? To grab? It was overwhelming. I looked at Chloe, really looked at her. She was huddled on the floor, shaking. And I saw it. She wasn't looking at me, Liam, her boyfriend, the software engineer. Her eyes were focused on a point just past me, as if she was seeing someone else standing in my shoes. She wasn't afraid of me. She was terrified of Mark. She was living a memory that wasn't hers, and I was feeling an anger that wasn't mine. We were puppets, and the strings led right back into the walls. We ended up on opposite ends of the couch, a 3-foot cushion of space between us that felt like a mile-wide chasm. The silence in the room was absolute. We both knew. There was no more denying it, no more explaining it away. It wasn't just changing the paintings anymore. It wasn't just turning off the lights. It had found a crack, a way inside our heads. It was taking the broken pieces of other people, other couples who had lived here, who had fought and hated each other in this very room, and it was jamming them into us. We weren't Liam and Chloe testing out a life together. We were becoming a living museum of failed relationships. The 27 marks on the wall weren't just counting time. They were a body count. I couldn't take it. My logic, my reason, my entire view of the world had been systematically dismantled. The only logical move left was to get off the board. "That's it," I said, my voice raw. I shot to my feet. Fuck this experiment. We're leaving, right now." Chloe looked up, hope and fear warring in her eyes. "Liam! No, no more talking about it, no more waiting to see what it does next. We pack a bag, we walk out that door, we don't look back." The panic was a live wire in my chest, finally sparking me into action. This was something I could control. Leaving. I ran to the bedroom, yanked our duffel bags from the top of the closet, and threw them on the bed. I felt a surge of adrenaline. This was the answer. My face was flushed, my hands shaking. I went into the bathroom to splash some cold water on my face to clear my head before we made our escape. I leaned over the sink, the porcelain cold under my palms, and let the water run over my wrists. I took a deep breath and looked up into the mirror. It wasn't me. The face looking back was mine, but wrong, thinner, harsher. There was a faint white scar that cut through the left eyebrow, a scar I didn't have. And the eyes. My eyes are blue. These were a flat, dead gray, and they were burning with a hatred so intense it felt like a physical heat. The reflection's right hand came up. My own right hand came up, moving in perfect sync, feeling like it was being lifted by an invisible force. I watched, a passenger in my own body, as the fist in the mirror drew back.
My fist drew back. The man in the mirror slammed his fist forward, straight into his own face. My own hand shot forward and smashed into the glass. The mirror exploded. A spider web of cracks erupted from the point of impact, the sound of it like a gunshot in the small room. Shards of silvered glass rained down into the sink. I stared down at my hand. Blood was welling up from 3 of my knuckles, bright red against my pale skin. The pain was sharp, real. But underneath the pain, for a fraction of a second, I felt something else. A flicker of ugly, terrifying satisfaction. The satisfaction of having delivered a punishment that was deserved.